On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk finding success in new places. Barco is focusing on residential, and AT&T mergers with Time Warner. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
ResiWeek episode 124, Professional Outreach.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Sure, because every voice matters.
And by Middle Atlantic, what great systems are built on.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Jeremy Glowacki. He is an industry media icon. How are you, sir?
Doing well. I'm having a little time to myself here, looking for some clients in the content development world, and happy to be here.
Excellent. Glad to have you here. And last but not least, we have Andre Lalonde. He is an industry vet. How are you, sir?
Doing well, my buddy. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. You and I, we go way back to, 12 years ago at Lutron?
Something like that, exactly. The first graduating class of Radio Raw 2, my friend.
That is very, very true. All right, gentlemen, let's jump right into this today. This comes to us from Residential Systems and our good friend Todd Anthony Puma. He's talking about finding success in unexpected places. As you read through the article, he goes through a couple of things, specifically how for himself he found a Facebook group specifically for Crestron dealers and Crestron programmers, and he's been able to leverage that into some great opportunities. He also looked at revisiting some of his vendor relationships and discovering some vendors that had some products that he had previously overlooked in the past that he's having great success with. And last but not least, he's discovered marketing and discovered that end user marketing is a good thing. Gentlemen, I want to kick this right off and come back, start with you, Jeremy, on this. When we start to look at, finding success and expanding our reach, expanding our pool of potential clients and things such as that, what other areas can we look at beyond, kind of the basics like Facebook groups and traditional advertising and stuff such as that? Because like even in my own company, we've had great success on Twitter within, the tech groups, if you will, in our local community. We've had great success with like a dad's club that's on Facebook in our local region. Things like that seem fairly normal and fairly easy to get to. But beyond, some of those basic kind of really marketing things, what other areas can we look at to find success in?
Well, one of the ideas that I thought of was, the old idea of CEDIA is train the trainer program. And with those, it's mostly to your professional groups, like the architects and designers. But you bring those guys in, and especially with the architects, they need continuing education credits. So they're going to have, a lot of interest in coming in and learning about technology. You keep it really surface level, go into the deep engineering speak about anything. I know that Lutron was, a good participant in these events, and you got local dealers who are going to have all of their local architects and designers come in for a lunch and learn or an evening reception hosted at even a client's home could be a possible outlet for that, or your own showroom. That's a better fit. And they get a chance to touch the technology, look at it, get a better feel for it, and see how that can be something that they can promote to their clients, and then trust this company, this integration company, as a partner going forward. So I think those face-to-face kind of opportunities with business partners are really good. With end users, like you said, there's other, types of social groups, but I think face-to-face is something that's so essential. It's undervalued. It's not always about social media and online. That's a great outlet like Todd has found, but to find local community opportunities are really essential.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up, Jeremy. When we look at the train the trainer type applications and reaching out to those industry groups, I've been in the industry for 15, 16 years now, and we've talked about it for years, and I've never really met anyone who's done a fantastic job at it. Is this something that just continually gets overlooked?
I think they're out there. I think that you just, it's a diamond in the rough kind of thing. There's not, always great examples everywhere you go. I attended one in my local market. Tom Doherty, who is an industry legend, hosted an event at basically a mansion here locally. It happened to be an old client of his who let him use the facility. And it was really well done. It was like an industry event, and he kept it at a level that, anyone could really understand and just made you feel kind of comfortable with the technology. And we're talking about, shades, and we're talking about lighting control. It's stuff that that particular audience can really relate to. We're not getting into HDMI and things like that,
Why doesn't my arc work?
Exactly. So I think you find them. Every event I go to, we talk about that. There's a smattering of people that are doing this. It's definitely an untapped opportunity. There's plenty of people that are not doing it, but I think for every market, there's at least one or two that really understand the value of that type of an event.
Very good. Andre, when Todd started talking about vendors and looking at vendors, it's something that, again, we think about a lot, that you need to look at your lines, look at who you have, look what's in your portfolio, look for new opportunities in your portfolio. How often and how important is it to, kind of take that step back and look at your vendor, opportunities and relationships and look at what else is out there that either offsets something you currently have or is a great addition to stuff you currently have?
I think, honestly, it's extremely important and should be something that's done on a very, very regular basis. The reality is business is changing so fast that we have so many new products, so many new solutions coming in, that it's really easy for us to get stuck in a world of, I've always done it this way, and therefore I'm going to keep doing it this way. And I'm referring to a solution, a technical solution, not about marketing in this case. So the idea is to be able to open your mind, expand it. The article does a really good job of saying, look at all the stuff with Oversee that I had no idea you could do. And that's not, of course, that's a Snap AV product, but that's just one example of other lines, right? When I was at Lutron, I was director of marketing at Lutron. We used to always talk about, you can dim the lights, but you have the shades, and then you have temperature, and then you have energy. And it's thinking of all these little aspects that you have to be able to be looking at overall and looking and understanding your big business as well.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's move on to our next story. This comes to us from Dealer Scope. It seems that Barco and Azione Unlimited have announced a state-of-the-art projection partnership. Barco Residential, who, if you don't know Barco, they are a huge name in projection in the commercial space, especially in the large format, large venue space. Not as well known in residential, though, but a huge behemoth of a projection technology company. They've started a successful partnership with Azione, and they are looking forward to using this partnership to create an opportunity and exchange some best practices with some of their members and move the industry forward within projection. Andre, let's start with you on this. This is a big move for Barco. They have been in the residential space, but fairly limited in the residential space, mainly because they are a high-end niche product. There's no way I can dance around that. It's not something that you're going to put up against an Epson. This is a very, very nice higher end product. When you look at this partnership between Barco and Azione, they're offering 12 projectors, with obviously all the things that come with that, and they're going up against some of the other high end names that Azione has, but this is still going to be a tough. I think it's going to be a bit of a tough sled for them because they are so ultra high end. What do you see with this?
Well, I think it's a good step in the right direction. Merging in or starting to do a relationship on the residential side with one of the buying groups, right? They chose to go with Azione. Richard is a marketing genius. So honestly, as a first step to get in, I think that's an absolutely brilliant play on their part to be able to forge that type of relationship. But I think you're also going to see eventually that they may be aspiring to go into some higher end type dealers that may belong to other buying groups as well. So I don't think this is going to be a one and done for them. They're going to start here. They're going to learn from here. But I expect to see other types of announcements with other buying groups, honestly, over the course of the next 6 months, especially with the CDA Expo coming up.
Right. Very good. Jeremy, when you look at this, you know, again, Barco has a really rich pedigree in this and in ultra high performance. But when they say that they're focusing on residential, and I'm trying to figure out how to ask this properly, but when you say you're focusing on something, but again, they're only offering 12 SKUs, how much of a focus can it be? Or is it still possibly like a side project for them?
Well, I mean, I would imagine that has something to do with just the opportunity that they see within the residential dealership, and that they don't want to provide too many solutions that could overcomplicate the opportunity. You know, I mean, keep it straightforward to start with. Don't assume that there's a consultant involved with a bunch of, input on, these, like a commercial sort of university type project or something like that. But I think that they're by just having a residential line. I mean, they've named it that. It's not like they just have some SKUs listed on their website. They have the vision of their company. I think that they're pretty serious about it. A little point that I kind of realized was that the digital projection used to be an Azione partner as well, and that's changed. So this group isn't unfamiliar with the high-end video projection. Of course, they have Sony as well. So there's a bit of overlap there with the other buying groups on a Sony and Samsung as well. But I believe that Andre is right. There's probably an opportunity there for more of that sharing of buying groups, and this might be their first step into it. We'll see if the dealers really embrace it or not. There aren't a ton of dedicated theaters going in these days. A lot of, family room, kind of entertainment spaces. Really, that's been the trend as of late. So I don't know how many jobs this is really going to turn into for them within the group. We'll find out.
Well, I guess the interesting caveat that I would look at is, yes, you're right. We are seeing less and less or fewer and fewer dedicated theater rooms, but when we are seeing them, they're usually the ultra high end.
True.
So it should be a good fit. All right, gentlemen, let's go on to most likely our last story of the day. This comes to us from the New York Times. AT&T has closed their acquisition of Time Warner. This was announced on the 14th, just the other day, that they have completed their $85 billion. It's such a big number. I flubbed it. Their $85 billion acquisition of Time Warner on Thursday. And this is going to be a huge deal because it brings together AT&T, who obviously is AT&T, and the media and entertainment portfolio that is Time Warner. That includes things like HBO, CNN, a ton of major sports broadcast contracts, as well as things like Harry Potter and that franchise and a bunch of other things. When we start to look at this, you may instantly look at it and go, why does this fit? Why are we talking about this? But what I wanted to get into, and Andre, we'll start with you on this. This is a big deal for a couple of reasons. One, it's a huge merger. Mm-hmm. Two, it brings together two massive firms within the same area. And we're to a point where we have three now major media conglomerates that are essentially running the show. Back in, gosh, I don't even remember how long ago. You can probably name it for me. But back when they split up a bunch of the telcos and divided everything up, that was done for better service for the clients and just a whole lot of legal things. But now that we have these three big conglomerates, where do you see this going forward?
It's definitely going to be interesting. And yes, it does reminisce of the Telecom Act of 1984, which is basically the deregulation of the former AT&T into the seven baby bells. As a former Nortel network guy, I remember having to do all that stuff many, many years ago. But ultimately, that one ended up happening. And then what happened? So we have the seven baby bells, right? And next thing you know, there were 2 or 3 wireless companies that emerged out of that. And then the wireless companies started buying the baby bells, right? AT&T eventually used to be Singular, which was Bell Atlantic and Bell South merging together. So you basically saw these conglomerates, basically, they broke them up, and basically all they did was over time with changes in technology, we moved them back together. And next thing you know, content is king. And now they start adding content and content and content. To be honest, I think the more telling sign is this whole Fox debate that's going on right now with, is Disney going to win or is Comcast going to win, right? Comcast, which owns NBC Universal. And now you're also talking again, this, I think it's 65 or $70 billion acquisitions, right? So how much more vertically integrated are these guys going to get? And what I'm afraid of is, at one point, are these guys going to start putting in proprietary technology because, oh, you're me or not versus, we're going to end up back with 7 little white boxes on top of my, on my table stand, so I can control every single one of them individually. So I think it's great from one perspective. If you only want to deal with one content, everything can be delivered from one guy and you're great. But I like choice. The whole point of breaking up these companies was to create choice. And it seems like as consumers, we're losing choice.
Jeremy, when we listen to what Andre is saying and we look at things going forward from a traditional telco standpoint, when we deal with them as residential integrators, it's the cable box, the cable modem or the fiber modem, whatever. But those are really the two things we deal with. We don't so much get involved in, content and all this other stuff. We are going to start to, because we're going to continue to see, one of the big things that they're talking about with this merger is the availability of all of Time Warner's media properties on AT&T Mobile from a mobile standpoint and using that additional screen. When we start to look at this as integrators, are you seeing or are you foreseeing any major changes to how this will affect the residential integrator?
Well, first of all, for this whole thing, I blame millennials. I
do too.
So
they're terrible.
one of the elements here is that AT&T acquired DirecTV and has not been doing very well with it because millennials weren't wanting satellite. So they created DirecTV Now as a streaming service. So this is a competitor to I guess Netflix and Amazon, Disney's potential streaming service. And that wasn't as successful. So now they're looking for content for it because apparently that's the problem. That's, the Time Warner piece of it is the content. Mm-hmm. And it all comes back to the fact that people don't want to buy big cable TV packages anymore. Namely, the younger demographic doesn't want to do this. They don't want to buy satellite packages. So these big companies are trying to figure out how to make money off of this content. And so I do think that it could be more boxes, like Andre said. And it could be the headache for the consumer is you can't get all of it in one place, which is annoying. You look at how Disney is wanting to lock down their content, and you've had changes over the years in terms of what Apple TV was able to show. Amazon, for a while, you couldn't get all of that content. I'll hear about a new show, and you have to be an Amazon subscriber to be able to get it, a Prime subscriber. So little things like that, they're headaches. I don't know. Ultimately, the consumer, to be able to do a la carte is kind of the goal here, to be able to just mix and match what you want. So from an installer standpoint, it's probably more boxes. That's what I predict. But we'll see if they'll be able to come together in some unified platform and just offer apps within those boxes.
So I guess something to look at then, guys, is this ties into the whole 5G realm, right? With this whole 5G deployment, with all the other technologies that come in, and maybe Matt, that's the answer.
Yeah.
To, how is this going to affect the integrator? Well, instead of there being a fixed fiber router or some type of other router, now it's going to be a 5G router, right? Well, AT&T's already in the wireless. They already have the spectrum. They paid billions of dollars for those licenses.
Yep.
They have the pipe into the house. So now how are they going to be able to increase their ARPU, the average revenue per user, right? The only way they could do it is by offering content, which, by the way, is no different than Verizon's purchase of Oath, which was AOL and Yahoo.
Yep.
And now we're seeing Disney and our friends at NBC, as I mentioned before, well, not NBC, but Comcast, basically buying some content as well. So everybody's buying pipes. Everybody's buying, is looking and starting to load these channels up and these pipes up with content in order to be able to maximize their dollars. Because, as Jeremy has already pointed out, because people are leaving cable. In the US, people are going out and they're going over TT and they're changing their ways. Not everybody, but it's definitely a trend. And of millennials, being a father to two of them, I'd say, damn right, they're the ones who are doing this.
But hold on, is it not, this is not dissimilar from anything else though, where you can't go to any major store, unless it's Amazon, and buy everything. If you need tools, you got to go to Home Depot. If you need groceries, you got to go to, depending where you are here, it would be Loblaws, but in the States it'd be Meijer or Walmart, Super Centers or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is it not, just really a big part of our job as integrators to make all these three or however many players all come together and work nicely?
Oh, I would say absolutely. However, we have how many years of experience that show when you try to get people to play nicely together and you still can't get it done entirely correctly. And if somebody goes and locks up a particular type of interaction or capability because they want to own that channel all the way through, and now it makes it that much more difficult. Right? They're an extremely big distributed audio company that started off with proprietary and then opened up their API, right? Which are probably going to lead into your next article that you want to talk about. But basically, they opened up their API to make sure that everybody can now play fair and everybody can have the same type of access. And all they ended up doing there, that wasn't about increasing the size of the pie. That was about making the pie bigger, which is a much smarter move, which is what these guys are doing ultimately.
Very good. All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there because I don't want to talk about that article. We talked about it last week. I don't need to gripe anymore. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Jeremy, if people want to connect with you, where can they do that?
I'm back on Twitter, but just barely. So try to find me and follow me. Thank you to Tim for following me back already. It's a big day when you have your first follower.
Have I followed you yet?
You'll see soon. It's really new. Trust me. Don't worry about it. So it's Glowacki_Jeremy. And of course you have to learn how to spell my last name for that to work, but look for me there. And also jglowacki@jeremyglowacki.com.
Beautiful. Which again, you have to figure out how to spell it. Andre, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people connect with you?
My pleasure. Basically, the easiest way to connect with me, obviously, is on LinkedIn or on Facebook. Andre Lalonde. Very, very easy. Just happens to be my Twitter handle. I'm not a big Twitter user myself. My kids are, and it's probably why I don't use it a lot because I'm scared of what they're posting. And obviously, any type of email, of course, is malalonde@yahoo.com.
Beautiful. Thanks again for joining us. For myself, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter @MattDScott and every other social platform. But more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of our other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.